Hello everyone. Last video for the week, and it's going to be a spicy one. It's one I've talked about before, but I think I want to accumulate my thoughts and not my final thoughts on it, but the thoughts I have so far are that I've accumulated and I've thought about and that I have revised. And that's on hope. So hope for me, I think it's it's a desire. I think that's what it is. It's a desire for something other than the present moment. And when we think about hope in this context as a desire, it becomes much clearer how we should use hope in our lives. We shouldn't put all our faith in hope because we shouldn't put all our faith in desire. We shouldn't desire something so much that if we don't get it, we're totally devastated. That's the same with hope. We shouldn't hope for something so much that we get completely devastated. What we should do instead is what I argue in my essay that I still haven't published because I've been focusing more on this book and the YouTube. But how we should approach hope is that we generate it for ourselves. The individual generates hope for ourselves and exudes it, emanates it, rather than absorbs it. So, the traditional sense of hope is what I said, desire. What I think hope should be is more of a charity, a giving. You should be a beacon, a hope for someone. And how do you do that? Well, I believe it starts with two things. And the first thing is extreme acceptance. And I see this theme throughout many different philosophies. So the Stoics, accepting all external, all environment, all that life has to give you, regardless of whether you think it's good or bad. The Tao, how in the Tao Te Ching they talk about how there is no good or bad in the Tao. It's just the Tao. It's unexplainable. Heaven and earth happen for the express purpose for following the Tao. That's kind of my reasoning behind it. So for us too, we should have this extreme acceptance of life itself, that it's a gift to exist in this world, and even all the what we'd say horrible tragedies and evils that befall of us, life is a canvas for our actions. And because of that, it's more of like a tree. Marcus Aurelius does a beautiful metaphor where our lives are the fruit of trees. We grow on this tree that is life, and then once we finally are ready to finally die, we drop from the tree and go back into the earth and decay into it. And that's how we should perceive life as well, is that whatever happens on this tree of life, it happens, but this tree has given us the opportunity to live in this environment. It has birthed us. That's another thing. And the Tao, the Tao Te Ching talks about, the Lao Tzu talks about, is that the Tao is the mother of all things. That's the tree. It's the birthing of all things. So for us to emit that hope in other people, emote the hope within ourselves, we first have to come at life as an extreme acceptance of everything that happens to us. That everything we think that is bad, everything that we think it's good, everything that we think is tragic, everything. And I think you're going to hate me for this, but I think there's good evidence for that as well with someone like Viktor Frankl, who went through the Holocaust, who lost all his family, and still is telling us that it's our attitude towards life that we need to change. And when you have someone like that, and then also these philosophers who, like Marcus Aurelius, who have commanded whole armies, have had their brother and their children and their wives die, and then had to quell rebellions, and someone like Lao Tzu too. So all these philosophers who've lived life and live life virtuously, telling you it's your attitude. It's you need to accept life as it is, and you need to every experience is your attitude towards it. I think that's enough evidence to suggest that we need to listen to them, at least to consider their argument. And for me, it's enough evidence to believe them and to continue with this idea of extreme acceptance. And after we've done extreme acceptance of all of life and what it has for us, then we go into what Jocko Willink proposed, and that is extreme ownership. So after you've accepted everything from in life as it is, next is, okay, what in every single situation could I have done better? Was it my fault? Was it something I could have done better? Could I have prevented this? Could I have done better? Could I have, like, for example, I was going to the gym, and there's this little road with no sidewalk that these, what's it called? This mother and two kids were just, for me, randomly walking across, so jaywalking. But there's also no sidewalks along that whole street, so I don't know what it's like it's terribly designed. But one of the cars stopped, and I kept going because there is no sidewalk right there, and I was stubborn, and I just wanted to go. And it's like, there's no sidewalk, lady. Why are you gonna try to walk your kids around here? And then I reflected and thought, you know what? It doesn't matter if there is a sidewalk. What I could have done better in that situation is recognize that human life and safety of humanity is greater than the rules or the established norms of society. Of course, we have to also acknowledge that it might be dangerous for me just to stop in the middle of the road if she just randomly walks in front of us. But in that situation, she wasn't. She was waiting to go. So it was something I could have slowed to a stop and still be safe and not have everyone running into the back of me. And that's what's interesting about life, is that each situation is different. You're different. The situation you're dealing with is different, and the people you're dealing with is different. Even though there might be patterns, everything is different. It's impermanence. There's that famous saying is that a soldier walks through the river, but next time he goes to the river, it's not the same because the river or he is different. Same here. And that's the extreme ownership part too, is, I could have just laminated on how they probably should have just parked at the very back of Target, or should have taken their car or to go to Target. But one, I don't know their situation. Two, I'm not them. Three, the only person I can control is myself in that situation, and what could I have done better? And maybe in that situation I couldn't have. And maybe there is a situation where I couldn't have done better. That I did everything that I could, and I just, after reflection, I think I did the right thing. In that situation, I don't think so. I think I could have I noticed them um, in time to have slowed to a stop with the other car that's stopped, and then allowed them to pass through. But then there might be situations where there's just nothing you could have done. Maybe you could have done something preventative. Maybe reflecting on that is like, how could I have prevented this from happening? And maybe you do everything right, it's still all wrong. But you don't get that without that reflection and that extreme ownership of, okay, this is my situation. How could I have done better? Or let me reflect on it and see what I could have done. And you don't get that until you don't get the, okay, maybe I couldn't have done better, if you don't go through the process of extreme ownership and of reflection and accepting the situation and asking yourself, how could I have done better? And once you do that, once you do extreme acceptance, you accept your surroundings. Once you do extreme ownership and you reflect on your actions, I think the next part is acting, is being courageous and acting in those situations, and then going through the same process. Is okay, extreme acceptance, whatever's happening, extreme ownership, I'm reflecting my things I'm doing, I am acting, and I'm trying to be courageous, I'm trying to be brave, and I know what I value, and I'm going to it. And once you do that, I think that is what generates hope and in other people. And for you, it's the emanation of hope. It's not necessarily you giving yourself hope. Of course, you're giving yourself the ability to be better than you were and more confident in your abilities. I don't think it's necessarily giving you hope, but what it is doing is you're emitting hope for others. And what I found is that's a lot more powerful than always trying to search for hope, because emanating hope, for me, of what I've seen, neglects it being a desire. It's more of a giving back to life and to people and the world. And of course, you might desire that feeling of exuding hope, but I think the act of going through the process and emitting hope isn't one of desire. It's one of growth. And maybe you desire growth. Desire is a weird kind of concept, because for me, I think everything's a desire. I think you can't live life without desiring something. Even in the Tao Te Ching, they talk about desire to be desireless. It's like, okay, that's still a desire though. While you're living and breathing, you're desiring something from this life, whether that is to retain your judgment, retain your stoicism and endurance against the struggles of life, whether that is to be desireless and become a monk and to seclude yourself. That's still a desire, to seclude yourself from other people to live a desirous life. That is still a desire. And so it's, and I think that's a little bit what Buddhism is trying to tackle, is trying to find that state of desirelessness and stay within it. But I don't think, I just, for me, I don't think you can be living without desiring something. Even the monks, their desire, I would say, is infinitesimal, but it's still there. Now, that's a different topic, because I still haven't thought about it, enough because there's like Thick Quang Chinh, I think. It was a Vietnamese monk who protested against the South Vietnamese before Vietnam War about religious prosecution, and he lit himself on fire. But what was interesting is that he just didn't react to the pain. So he just sat there burning, not saying anything, and just in the lotus position. And you could say that's a desireless state, because I think meditation is kind of a desireless state. But I don't necessarily think that's living. I don't think if you're in meditation that it is, of course your body's living, right? You haven't died. Your body's still working, your body's still bumping, beating your heart, or your lungs are still breathing, you're still your blood is still flowing. Those are, in my opinion, desirous states, because it's the body's will to live, and it's desire to live. But I think meditation is the closest we get to a desireless state, which is, I think, stillness and death. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. But go back to hope, because I went on a tangent. I think hope, because of our Western ideas of Christianity and uh, Catholics, Jews, the idea that there is hope, in that there's an eternal hope that after you die, you will be resurrected into heaven if you have accepted Jesus in your heart, or you have followed God's rules. And I think just people have just had this idea embedded in them, and to the point that, into Western culture too, to the point that having not having hope is equated to not living. And maybe, maybe, because hope is a desire, and like I said, my argument is to live is to desire. So maybe, like, to live is to hope as well. I could see that argument. But I think a better way of looking at it is there is no hope. There's no external. How about this? There's no external hope. There's the hope that you generate. And I think that's a better way of looking at it. There is no external hope. There's only the hope you generate through extreme acceptance, through extreme ownership, and through extreme action. And I think that is how you can walk through life with hope. It's not carrying hope with you, it is the emission of hope from within your being. I mean, if you just want examples, look at Jesus. Like, whether you believe he was the Messiah, whether you believe he is part of the Holy Trinity and is God, we can all agree that the man Jesus gave people hope. And he admitted that from within himself. I also think there's other things he did and other reasons why he was able to admit the hope. But he's a good example of just us showing how a person can generate hope. I think my last thought is that I think a lot of I call them Lord philosophers. So just people who are philosophers, but who are also doers, who are also people who take actions. Easiest one is the philosopher king Marcus Aurelius with his meditations and also acting and doing as the emperor of Rome. I I would argue these people give others hope as well. And this is circumstantial right now because as I read Marcus Aurelius, I know that I am giving, I get some hope from him. Mainly hope that people can be better, like Marcus Aurelius tried to do for himself. And I didn't get, it's not like Marcus Aurelius is going to come back and save me. But I think his hope, the hope he generated, showed us that, showed me that I could be someone who generates hope for other people. So if we say something like unconditional hope, unconditional love, unconditional virtue, if we uh, focus on the giving instead of the receiving of these, giving hope unconditionally, giving love unconditionally, giving virtue unconditionally, then others are able to establish their own hope, love, and virtue as well. That's what you see with the Jack Ripper and Hercules fight is Jack the Ripper at the end, spoilers, finally starts to assess his own feelings and that's the first step into loving himself at the end of the day and stop worrying about his external environment and finding love externally is because first he did find unconditional love in Hercules for not for him but for just humanity. And that's when Jack the Ripper finally starts to see, at least get onto the road to loving himself and being okay with himself. So, talk about Wreck of Ragnarok. I want to read it again. But we will see. Anyways, no video tomorrow. But I hope you guys have a good weekend. And I'll see you later. Bye.